Stampers, Tracy Filter here with Tracy's Ink Spot. I'm going to show you a technique today that's called, well, I call it anyway, Stamp 1, Make 2. Not sure if that's the official name for it or not, but it's a really cute technique that lets you get 2 projects out of one stamped piece of art. So I'm going to go down here for just a second and show you that we are going to use the stamp set called Beautiful Friendship. It's on page 115 of our current annual catalog, and your cover for that should look like this. If you do not already have one of these, make sure you hit me up so that you get one. It's from our Distinctive collection, and that means that the artwork, as you can see in here, has light and shade to it already in the stamp. So when you stamp with one color, you really end up with several colors looking like you've gone over layers. So that's really kind of a fun way to get some depth with only using one color of ink. All right, so again, page 115 for that. Here's the stamp set itself. You can see it's got great phrases for birthday, friendship, congratulations, and happy to know you, along with several different versions of flowers. Getting a little bit of a glare. There we go. Several different flowers and leaves, so you can get quite a variety of use out of this guy. Alrighty, I'm going to give you this. This is your notes that you're going to want to take. You're going to start with a piece of neutral cardstock. I'm using Whisper White today that measures 7.5 by 5. We're going to stamp it in such a way that when you cut it in half, you're going to end up with 2 pieces that are going to be 3 3/4 by 5, and you're going to layer those onto your card base. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to raise you up and set you down. Maybe zoom in just a little bit. All right, thanks for being patient with me on that. Okay. So since I know that I'm going to want to cut this piece of paper in half, I'm going to line it up on my grid paper so it's very clear to me where the half is. There's this darker line that goes through the middle. I'm just going to put a tiny bit of adhesive on my paper to hold it in place so I don't bump it and move it around. All right, and I know it's this line and this line. Okay. So that is going to show me where the middle of my cardstock is, my sheet of cardstock here is, so that I can get the imagery going the way I want it. Okay, color palette for this card is going to be Balmy Blue, Gorgeous Grape, and Merry Merlot. I'm going to start with my Balmy Blue, and I'm going to use the flower cluster to start. Okay, so I'm going to ink that up. And I'm going to start one down here, and I'm going to stamp off just a little bit. I like when the images bleed off the edges. Kind of gives it a really finished and polished look. I'm going to do another one up here, kind of in the middle. And I know I'm going to want some in the corners. And we can go back and fill in a little bit later if we need to, but I think I need just a little bit more down there and a little bit more right there. Okay. So it looks a little bit like a Rorschach test at this point, but I promise you it's all going to come together. Okay, then I am going to take Gorgeous Grape and the very large double flower, and I'm first going to settle one of them right about here. And again, this doesn't have to be very precise. What you're basically trying to do is get kind of like a mirror image going. Okay, so these flowers are going to go over here, and then I'm going to do one at the top this way and one at the top this way. And again, that's not a perfect mirror image, but it really doesn't have to be. Okay, now I'm going to fill in some of the white space with this little, it's sort of like a leaf, but it has kind of like little buds or something on it. So I'm going to take that into my Merry Merlot, and we're going to add a little accent in between some of these flowers, underneath over here, and up above there. And again, this is a lot of just random filling in. If you've ever tried to make like your own DSP with a design, that's basically what we're kind of doing. We're filling in space that is just a little bit of white space that we don't necessarily want to see once the project is all finished up. Okay, I think that is pretty good for what I'm looking for. Again, if you want to, you could add a little bit more blue, maybe up or down. It doesn't really matter how much you use. You get different looks depending on how much you do that. And I have a couple other examples I'll show you later where some of it's a little less and some of it's a little bit more. Okay, you're going to carefully take that off your sheet. Bring in your paper trimmer. And now if you remember, our width was 7.5, so we want to bring this down to 3 3/4. So line it up at the 3 3/4 mark. and cut it in half. Okay? So again, like I said, you're basically going for that mirror image look. So now you have two pieces of paper that look very, very similar, but you only stamped once, which is really helpful. Okay, we're gonna take a sheet of Mary Merlot as a border and put some adhesive on the back of that one. It's gonna go right in there, like so. And again with the other one, whoop. Okay. And again, mine is a very tiny border. I only went 1/8 of an inch over. The more natural layers I usually do are like about 1/4 inch. So you could go up to a 4 by 5 1/4 sheet. And then your card base, again, is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So that's gonna have a tiny little border on there as well. All right, so we're gonna put it on a base of balmy blue, like so. There you go, there's one. And here comes two. Now look how fast that came together. And they're simple, but they're beautiful. I took a phrase from here, the birthdays are the best. I stamped it in Mary Merlot onto a white circle that I cut out with our layered circle dies. And then I cut a scallop circle from the same die set out of Mary Merlot. Okay, I put some dimensionals on the back already. And that's just gonna come then. And we'll fill in that extra white space with that. Okay. And you can decide once you're done with the stamping part. I kind of envisioned where the phrasing was going to go before I started stamping the background. So you can either do that first or second, kind of up to you. You might decide if you want more imagery, then you're going to have less of a phrase that'll fit. Okay, so there are my two cards from one set of stamping. All right, again, as I said, I have a couple other samples to show you. First is Gorgeous Posies. And I'm going to bring my catalog back in. This is on page 8, and I'm going to bring you down a little bit so you get a little closer look. This particular set is designed to go with a preset card kit. So you can order the card kit pieces, and then you can order the stamp set, and if you use their recommended colors, you can create all the cards that they've shown you in the catalog. So I, for now, just have the stamp set itself, and I think it is really very pretty all on its own. Has some nice, again, kind of the distinctive or shaded looking flowers. There's a couple good sentiments in there. Really fun fonts. I like when we get a variety of font styles within a stamp set. I thought this one was a pretty good one. All right, so from that, I did a similar layout. So as you can see, they were like so. There's my one set of stamping. This time, though, I rotated the cards to be a landscape layout instead of a portrait layout. Okay, so same concept. This is Bumblebee, Just Jade, and Calypso Coral, in case you're wondering about the color combination. And I just did some scraps for the words. So white and jade, and then of course our jade ribbon. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is from The Right Triangle, and that can be found here on page 35. There's quite a few pattern triangles and other little fill-in shapes. Patterns, there's hearts, little plus signs. This is kind of like a tiny little tulip. And then this also comes with a set of dies. So you can make really fun quilted patterning between the dies and the stamps themselves. Really, really fun way to play. All right, so we took that, or I should say I took that one. And this time, that's how they would have come together. You can see where I used Pretty Peacock, Mint Macaron, and Poppy Parade. And this time I switched one horizontal and one vertical. And I took the phrases from the stamp set called The Best Year. Okay, so there's that set. And lastly, I used something you might not think of for this kind of technique. I used Winter Woods, and I saw another sample done by Dawn Olszewski, another wonderful demonstrator, where she had taken this set of trees and stamped them in multiple colors to kind of give a layered forest look. And I thought it was really cool, and it would look really good across the bottom of an imagery, bottom of your image. So I took that concept, and again, this is page 61. Sorry, I meant to mention that. Also comes with a die set where you can have a 3-dimensional tree. This tree by itself is also very, very pretty. Okay, so we'll put the catalog away officially. and I will show you the last one I made. Okay, so this time I did a smaller image, and I knew my final piece was going to be 4 by 4, so I cut 4 by 8. So as you can see, it doesn't fill up as much of the card, but I wanted this to be a continuous layout of just the tree. And then, let me see if I can get it to show up enough. I added Wink of Stella, so there's just a hint of sparkle. I'm not sure, oh, maybe a little bit. The camera's picking that up. It's hard to tell. I used terracotta tile and Cajun Craze on this one. And I want to show you how I made that ribbon technique. So I'm going to put you back up for a second. I used the ribbon from Forever Greenery. It's a ribbon set that you get 2 in a pack. You're going to get this really fine gold filament, and then you're going to get this wider piece of ivory that's woven. Okay, now this, like, gathering it up will only work if you still have it attached to something at the end. So either glue it down on your piece of cardstock or whatever you're using, or make sure it's still attached to the spool. And you're going to reach right about in the middle, get rid of a couple of the side pieces, and then you're just going to start pulling. And as you can see, it starts to gather as you pull. Okay, so you get this really cool look of just that little bit of gap. I just used a tiny bit of it. You could absolutely do this across, whoopsie, across cardstock or something like that. I'm gonna bring it back down for a second. Oh dear, it fell off. There we go. So again, you get this really cool gathered look with this ribbon just by pulling. Like I said, you pull that middle thread, then be sure to tack down those edges really well. I tacked mine under the piece itself, and then I put glue dots under this end to hold all that in place so it doesn't become ungathered, if that's the phrase. Okay, so that is a fun technique to do with this kind of ribbon as well. All right, so I think that is all I have to show you tonight for the Stamp 1 Cut 2. So again, here's some of my samples coming back in, and my posies. So this would work for all kinds of fun techniques. I would like to choose my stamps that have multiple types of images, some large, some small, things that you can mix and match really nicely. And you can play with just about anything, I think, to get this idea through. So again, cut a piece of your base piece to be double the size you want it to be finished, and then cut it in half and go from there. All right, thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have some happy stamping time. Bye.